I noticed as the evolution of Glock carbines has progressed, they've started getting a lot smaller, which on one hand seems really cool. One case in point is about 1.5 years ago, I reviewed this guy right here. It's called the Flux Brace from a company called Flux Defense. I really had high hopes for this thing. I mean, it has a place to put your magazine in the front. It integrates an Olight into the front, which I thought was pretty cool. And then it has another cool little party trick right here where you can just deploy it and shoot it like so. And I guess the biggest pro to it is, you could fit it into a small backpack. They even make a little holster for it so you could carry it outside the waistband. And I do make an IWB holster for it as long as you don't have this front attachment on it, but I've never tried that. Now this, I didn't think this was worth the money, but the way it sits in my hands right here, the price is about $338. I do believe that the price has come down since last year when this first came out, but it's still quite expensive. And then if you want to get the holster that goes to it, that's another $139 for a holster just for this thing. We'll talk more about this here in a minute, but recently a company called Recover Tactical came out with this guy called the 2020. And it's almost the same thing, but there's, a few differences in it, which we'll talk about here in a minute. As this is configured in my hands, this comes with more than the Flux Brace and it costs $189. It doesn't have a quick deployment, but it does fold open like this. And it does come with a holster that also doubles as a trigger guard. It also has a place to put a spare magazine. So I guess the question kind of comes down to this. With this being more affordable, does it work as it's advertised? How does it shoot? And what are the pros and cons to both of these? Now, if you're new to this channel, I can't really put links in the description to products for gun accessories, but if you follow the first link in the video description, it'll take you to a separate page where this video is also hosted. And over there in that video description is where I always post the links for the products that I'm talking about in videos. Dive up close, let's talk about both of these braces. Let's compare them. And then here in a little bit, we're gonna go over the shooting footage, talk about the pros and the cons, and then I'm gonna tell you if it were my money, would I buy it or not? Just to kind of give you a little bit of a better idea of the difference between these two. This one is the Flux Brace. Essentially, you press this button, it shoots out. This one connects through this. The way you install this is you drive out your little pin for your back strap and they provide you another pin. Then on the front, you put in this vertical grip and it attaches to your Picatinny mount. And then inside, you can put in a little Olight. When I first saw this, I thought this was gonna be a hit. And it just turned out to be super uncomfortable and really expensive, which we'll talk more about here in a minute. So I kind of just threw this in the box, didn't even think about it for a while. I do like to hang on to parts that get sent to me for review, just because when something like this comes out, I have it for comparison's sake. This one comes with a holster that also acts as a trigger guard. Apparently you can carry this outside the waistband. I haven't tried it. I think it's kind of dumb, so I'm not gonna try it. Anywho, take that off. Now this one's a little bit different. So if you notice, it doesn't connect right here with the pin in the back strap. It connects by sandwiching itself up here on the rail. Your handgun will come out. We will have a full review on this handgun, guys. I haven't done it yet. I did do it in my last EDC update, but if you get this one for the 17, it will only fit the 17, or like a Glock 22. I think it's a Glock 22 that's the same size as this one. It will only fit those. And so you're kind of screwed if you want to change guns. This one will fit my Glock 19s, my Glock 17s. It'll fit a Glock 22. It'll fit all of the 40 caliber variants. It'll also fit all of the 9mm variants as well as the 357s. So that's pretty cool. Then they also have a model, like if you have a 45 ACP or a 10mm, those are considered like large frame Glocks. So if you have one of those, they have a model for those. One cool thing that they did do, with this one, you can see by the way this is designed, that you can't really manipulate the slide unless you have a red dot on it. And you're probably wondering, like I was wondering, well, what if you have a gun that doesn't have a red dot on it? Well, it turns out they've thought of that. Grooves, kind of like this, right? And then this piece fits up underneath. Then it has these screws that attach it. And so if you had this slide on it, for example, you now have kind of like a ledge right here, similar to the size of a red dot, that allows you to manipulate the slide while it's attached to it. I thought that was a really cool feature because this ledge right here will push your thumb back. and I've found myself trying to, just rack it, and it's just super uncomfortable. I wish they would have not made that slanted. I wish they would have brought it all the way back to here, and they don't provide a solution from Flux to do something like this. And unfortunately, I tried using this on here. When you rack it back to here, that plastic impedes it and you can't rack it. So I did try to use it, but it doesn't work on the Flux. One con though to something like this is it only fits the stock serrations. So if you have a gun that's like this and you don't have serrations, this one just has knurling on it, this won't work. So if you have a slide like this, you're gonna need a red dot in order to really manipulate that. So a couple things that they did that I like pretty well is they put these detachable rail sections on either side. You don't have to have them both mounted. I just kind of put them there for example purposes. One thing that Flux did right was they allowed you to have a place to put a spare mag while retaining a light. So that was pretty smart on their part. But on this one, you can't put a light on the bottom and have the mag carrier. So that's why I think they added these side pieces. Another cool feature that they did, and now you can use it as a minimalist style holster for the range. Now I really would use it like that. Not that I really need to, because I have other holsters, but that's kind of a cool little setup that's included. And then I guess if you wanted to run one of these guys, like let's say you're running a gun that doesn't have a red dot, you could use one of these for, for easier manipulations, but you just carry it. And now you can shoot like that, have a little place to holster it, protect the trigger. But I just don't know how advantageous that really is. You guys should let me know down in the comments. Do you think this is advantageous or no? Personally, I kind of see it as something kind of cool that they added, but it's not something I would probably use myself. Now we need to go over the pros and the cons of it, especially versus the Flux Brace. Then we got to talk about what it's actually like to shoot it. Back up top. All right, so let's talk about the pros and the cons of this guy. And let's also talk about what it's like to actually shoot it. Aside from not having an integrated light and not having a quick deploying brace, it's basically the same thing as the Flux Defense brace, but it's a lot more affordable. Now, what are the pros and the cons of this guy? Well, it's small and lightweight. That's definitely a pro. It's affordable. That's a pro. And unlike the Flux Brace, this one fits multiple handgun models. So because of the way that the Flux Brace is designed, if you buy it for like a Glock 19 sized pistol, it's only gonna fit Glock 19 sized frames like the Glock 19 or the Glock 23. Whereas if you buy it for the Glock 17 size pistols, it's only gonna fit something like the Glock 22 or the Glock 17. So, whatever size grip you buy the Flux Brace for, you're kind of stuck with it. Whereas this one, it fits all medium frame size Glocks. And then if you want one to fit the large frames like the 45 and the 10mm, they have a model for that one as well. Another one of the really big pros to this is, like I showed you up close, it has those little attachments. So if you're running a gun that doesn't have a red dot, you can still manipulate the slide as if you do have a red dot, because without a red dot or that plastic piece installed, you're not going to be able to manipulate this slide because of how high this little guy comes up on the side of the gun. I really wish Flux would have introduced something like that. I really thought that was pretty ingenious of Recover Tactical to do that, but it still has cons. What is a con? Number one, it doesn't have an integrated flashlight, similar to the Flux Brace. You do have to use a rail attachment on here, and it does make it a little bit cumbersome if you're trying to actuate the light with the rails up this high. The second con that it has isn't quick deploy. You do have to kind of pull up on it and do it yourself. It's not a huge deal, but it is, a con in comparison to Flux. The next con to this guy, it's just not comfortable to shoot, at least for me. I went out to the range, I put about a mag through it, and I just knew from that first mag that I didn't like it. It shoots very similar to this guy. One of the problems that I had with this is when you have it up here on your cheek, or if it incidentally hits your shoulder, to have it high enough to see through that red dot, you really have to get your face over it like this. And you have this slide coming really close to your face. When I did the review on the Flux Brace, Flux Defense said they were going to come out with some extended rails for it. They said the reason that I probably didn't like it was because I have long arms. I'm like, well, I don't have any issues with the Ronies. I don't understand why I do with this. The problem is if they would have added longer rails, now it's going to be a lot larger than the initial footprint of the gun. The other con to this one versus the Flux is your bore axis. Because of the way that this guy integrates, your bore axis now is greatly increased from like down here up to here. Whereas the way that this one's integrated, you can get your grip way up here, and you know, it does shoot with a little bit less recoil, but nonetheless, it's not comfortable to shoot. Which brings me to my next point. So the way I like to review items is I like to review them from, you know, the concept of how they're advertised. You know, if a company says that it will, you know, improve accuracy or do something, if it doesn't accomplish those things, those are ticks against it. And then if it compromises safety or something like that, then it's an automatic fail. Now with this one, Recover Tactical markets it as easy to install, which is very true. It is very easy to install. Number 2, no modifications required. Nope, no modifications required to your firearm. And their next point is it improves accuracy. And for me, it made my accuracy a lot worse. I was actually more accurate shooting just standard like this than I was like this. Which kind of brings me to my next point. If it makes your accuracy worse, then why on earth would you buy it? I really can't find a good reason why you would buy this. And the same thing goes for this one. This one made my shooting worse, not better. Now, I did promise you earlier that I would show you one that I think is worth the money. Towards the end of last year, I reviewed something like this. It has been redesigned since I've reviewed it, but this is called the Roni, this is the Roni Gen 4. I think the one that's out now is called the Roni MCK. I'll have links to it in the build list. But this thing covered all the bases. You know, had an integrated trigger guard, you know, so you could protect your trigger. It folds up nicely. It fits in a backpack. Yeah, it's not gonna be quite as small as those, but this thing greatly improves the stability of the gun, thus making me a more accurate of a shooter. Plus you can put some other red dots on it and flip up sights and all kinds of crazy stuff. And you basically kind of have an AR pistol, but with a Glock. And for, I think these are about $230, depending on which kit you get. You can get them with the red dots and the sights, or you can just choose to put your own on there. If you get the base kit, they're really affordable. That's what I would do. I would just get my own flip ups and my own red dot. But if you choose to get their higher end kits that come with all the stuff, they're still a really good value. And I probably would trust this with my life just because I never had any malfunctions with it. But it kind of comes down to this, guys. It really doesn't matter what I think. It really matters what you guys think and how you feel about it. Do you think that these little braces that are starting to come out, do you think these are worth the money? Personally, I don't think so, but let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments section. But anyways, guys, until next time, I love you. You guys stay sexy.